Welcome to the quiz. Here we try to educate people by teaching them more about sensitive topics. Today's topic is slavery heritage, and the quiz will be about a paper about slavery heritage tours, which is organized by the Black Heritage Tours in Amsterdam. However, due to the corona regulations, the tour was given online instead of usually the walking tour in Amsterdam itself. The research tries to find out more about to what extent slavery heritage was commodified and how different social demographics influence the tourism experience. Right now we have our two participants, Sarah and Maud. They will be questions about their knowledge on the research itself. Also, we have our expert, Ismay. She can explain more to us about the topic during the quiz. Are you guys ready?
Yes!
Good, let's start. The first question of the quiz: which instruments were used to collect the data for the research? Maud.
In-depth interviews were done and a survey was distributed. The researchers each interviewed 3 participants before and after the tour, and after the tour also a survey was distributed. Also an in-depth interview with the producer of the tour was done, and this was done because it was done to see if commodification happened at the tour.
Correct. Okay, the next question is about commodification, but first we'll go to our expert to learn more about the concept of commodification. Ismay.
So yeah, there are 2 types of commodification. The first dimension of commodification is related to slavery heritage being commodified into a tangible product. The second dimension of commodification concerns the intangible aspects of slavery heritage.
All right, thank you very much, Ismay. Well, the next question: how can the first dimension of commodification be seen in this case of the slavery heritage tour? Sarah.
The first dimension is present in the slavery heritage tour by showing it as a walking tour or a boat trip through Amsterdam. This is what the usual tour was like. For the virtual tour, there's a price tag attached to the tour because the participants had to pay €5 each, which is also a sign for commodification. And also in the usual walking tour, the tour guide offers like beverages or a map to the participants, which is also the first dimension of commodification.
Correct. Then the next question about commodification: how is the second dimension of commodification seen in this case of the slavery heritage tour? Sarah.
Sites and stories differ from tour to tour because the interests of the group differ. So like the content of the tour gets tailored to their interests. And also some sites are sometimes being left out because of time constraints or because they don't fit the tour at all. And this is all done to create like a better tourism experience.
That is correct. Next question: why did the producer commodify the tour? Maud.
The producer mentioned that she at first didn't want to commodify the tour. However, to create more awareness in an educational way, it was necessary. And this is seen due to the price tag that was put on the tour, and that was because she spent more time and knowledge on the tour. So it was kind of like a compensation for it.
Correct. Next question: which 4 components were included in the concept of the tourism experience? Maud again.
Prior knowledge, motivations, expectations, and emotions.
Also correct. And our expert, Ismay, can explain more about how these concepts are intertwined and how they contribute to the tourism experience.
Yeah, so the tourism experience consists of, is influenced by the expectations and by the emotional experience. The expectations are made up of motivations and prior knowledge. The higher someone's motivation is, the higher they expect their expectations become. And also if they have higher knowledge before partaking in the experience, they also expect the experience to be better. The emotions are a component of what makes up the emotional experience, which contributes to a memorable experience. The fact that the tour was online, in this case, that resulted in people finding it difficult to get in touch with their emotions.
Thank you very much, Ismay. We heard you talking about motivations, so that will be our next questions as well. What was one of the main motivations to partake in the slavery heritage tour? Sarah.
The main motivation was to gain more knowledge, and we also read in previous studies that this is the main motivation usually for people when they're partaking in a heritage tour. So it goes together with the literature that we found beforehand.
That is correct. Well, the next question is going to be about emotions. What were the dominant emotions felt during the tour? Quick response from Maud.
The dominant emotions were curiosity and sadness. Curiosity can be explained by the fact that the main motivation was to increase their knowledge. And sadness can be explained by the fact that the topic was a very dark chapter in history.
Correct. Previous studies have shown that social demographic can influence a person's emotions. Ismay, can you please explain how the social demographic can influence emotions?
Yes, the literature shows that age, gender, and level of education have an impact on how people experience their emotions. People who are older experience negative emotions less intensely compared to younger people. After studying various research papers, there was no concrete conclusion on whether gender impacts people's emotions. And finally, the level of education is considered as an important influence on emotions. The higher the level of education, the better connected they are with their emotions.
Thank you very much, Ismay. All right, guys. Last question of this quiz. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
What social demographics had influence in the research?
There was no influence by the social demographic on the emotional experience of the participants. This might be due to a very small sample.
That is correct. All right, guys, we've calculated the scores. And it's a draw. 4 points Sarah, 4 points Maud. All right. The take-home message of this quiz is comparable to the research. That is, they should be aware that information needs to be commodified in order to be accessible and in order that it can be taught to people. It is important because it determines how information can be understood. This quiz could also be seen as commodification, since the researchers have now chosen a way to bring across this information, which influences your total experience. Well, that is the end of the quiz. And first of all, I would like to thank our expert, Ismay. Then, of course, this quiz would also not be possible with our two participants, Sarah and Maud. Well, that is the end of the quiz. We hope you guys will tune in again next week to learn more about Jewish heritage. Thank you all and good night.